This is the Project Cambridge podcast.
Hi and welcome to another episode of the Project Cambridge podcast. Thank you everyone for joining us today, whether you're listening or you're watching us. And I'm very pleased to introduce you to today's guest, who is Ruben Ruiz-Mateos Serrano, who's the founder and CEO of Polytecks. And in just a couple of minutes, I'm going to introduce you properly to Ruben. But firstly, I just need to talk you through a little bit of the housekeeping of the podcast. So for anybody that's new to the podcast, what we're aiming to achieve here is by bringing you really cool stuff going on in Cambridge. So it's mostly a mix of a sort of tech and science vibe. But we're also bringing new innovations and really the interesting people behind that, and to show you how our city and the whole area is growing today, and some ways that you can get involved too. So we're always aiming to make that as an inclusive and accessible as we possibly can. So that's why we try to use as much as possible. It's really palatable, easily digestible tech language. So we talk in layman's terms as much as we possibly can so that everybody can understand this. Finally, I want to encourage you to pop any questions or comments in the comments boxes. We really do want to get your feedback, and I'm happy to get back to you with any questions or pass anything on to Ruben if he can help with anything and any more information on what he's doing with Polytechs. Last but not least, I'm at home with the cats today. Well, actually, one cat's in, one cat's out. So that kind of reduces the risk by 50%. But it's quite likely that we could have some interference from a cat. Don't be surprised if he makes an appearance. They do love to get involved, these cats. Although the previous 4 podcasts, we haven't seen them yet. But I've got a feeling today's going to be that day. And it's also possible that the doorbell might go. You know, this is authentic, real life. We love it and we're here for it. So that's the formalities out of the way. And we can now get started properly with today's episode. And I'm thrilled to introduce you to Ruben Ruiz-Mateos Serrano, who's the founder and CEO of Polytechs.
Hi, Jen. Thank you so much for having me on the show. I mean, I'm very excited. It's really my first time doing a podcast. So, it's a real pleasure to join you and to share a bit about what we're doing and Polytechs. And I'm also looking forward to meeting the cats.
Fingers crossed. Well, great. Thanks for joining us, obviously, Ruben. So Ruben and I, we first met, and it was through this year's Impulse program, who many of you will have heard of. But for any of you that haven't heard of the Impulse program, it's a 3-month program. It's run through the University of Cambridge, and it's what they call an action learning program. It's a focus on developing high potential business cases for people with extremely smart ideas. And we're going to hear about Ruben's very soon. So this year was actually the 9th year of the program, and just to give you a bit of an idea of some of the alumni over the years. I mean, we're talking the likes of Zampler, Echion, Riverlane, New Quantum, Lark Optics, who else? Remedium. The list goes on and on. So really so much success that's come out of the program here in Cambridge. So Impulse invites mentors and business experts to deliver practical workshops. So small group mentoring and one-to-one advice to help the participants develop a business plan and practice their investor pitches, as well as expanding their network and, doing some external networking events as well. So this year, some of the experts included people like Faye Holland, Jason Mashinchi. I hope I said that right, Jason. Apologies if I didn't. Quentin Harmer. We had Gillian Davis. And would you believe it? Me. Yes, I had some one-to-one meetings with some of the participants, and I also delivered a live workshop to the group, which is something that I obviously do externally through Project Cambridge, but did one for the Impulse program. And that's where I met you, Ruben. You came and attended the workshop at the Maxwell Centre, didn't you?
Yeah, that's right. I mean, the Impulse program was honestly a fantastic experience. Like what I really liked about it most of all is that it's built for scientists who are trying to spin out or make the leap into entrepreneurship from research. And I think that that's great because you are surrounded by people that are in the same situation as you and people that have had the experience of, going through that process. I thought that that was fantastic. I mean, and of course, you mentioned it already, but the network that you gain is incredible. I mean, you're connected to a lot of people, including yourself, right? and the mentoring, the one-to-one mentoring, I think is quite special because you really get to discuss your company in a very practical way. You really talk to people directly, and you can express your worries or your concerns or your different aspects of the company, which is fantastic, really. I mean, I'm also a co-founder for a long story. I'm a co-founder of another company called Q-Trees, who worked on, we're in the process of closing it now, but it worked on image processing for food quality control. And I always acted very much as a CTO in that company, meaning that a lot on the technology, it was basically like a science project to me. Whereas with Polytecks, I'm really trying to act as a CEO and really learn how the commercial side of things work. So I think that really Impulse helped a lot in that transition. And in particular, of course, Project Cambridge, I think the workshop that you gave was very, very valuable. Mostly because there's a lot of talks that, you listen to the experience of the person that did it, and it's fantastic. But there are other talks that I find also very valuable, like yours, that are very practical, that they give you very real world advice on how to do different things. In your case, it was recruitment, growing a team, right, and all that, which of course is very essential at the early stages of a company like Polytechs right now. So I thought that it was really, really valuable to have that information and that talk. Yeah.
Oh, thank you so much. That's really nice feedback to get, and especially with Impulse as well, and how useful you found that on your CEO journey, to really hear from people that have been there, done that, and are still doing it, obviously. So after I delivered the workshop, I mean, you came over and you told me all about Polytechs. You had the little prototype in your bag, which I thought was great that you carry that around with you. And as you said, Polytechs is the company that you founded. And so we're going to talk about this in more detail. But so you're creating smart textiles, which provide faster, earlier, and better diagnostics of cardiovascular disease in patients. So really, here's the chance for you, Ruben, to practice your pitch and tell our viewers and our listeners all about Polytechs. Go for it.
Absolutely. I mean, all the Impulse program is going to pay off now, I hope. So yeah, at Polytechs, we like to say that we're bringing the body into focus. And essentially, like you said, we are developing smart wearable fabrics that can detect the electrical signals that your body is naturally producing and is reflected into the skin. So it turns out that your skin is continuously active, electrically speaking. And by putting sensors, in this case from a fabric, over the skin, you can really measure those signals and make sense of them. And because we are doing it in a very special way that allows us to get a lot of information, means that we can really improve a lot how diagnosis of several diseases, in particular cardiovascular diseases, is done at the moment. Right? I mean, the idea at the moment is that if your heart, to check if your heart is healthy, you need to go to a specialist hospital and do some imaging and expensive scans and whatnot. And the idea of Polytechs is to bring that a bit closer to everyday doctors so that they can catch problems earlier and essentially help people sooner. I mean, I have an example of the device right here. So you mentioned that I bring the prototype all the time. So this is the kind of stuff that we're doing. It is fabric, believe it or not. I mean, it has this sort of layer here on top, but it on the edge, you can see that there's a bit of fabric and you can extend it into a big patch. And I mean, essentially, as you can see, it's very simple. It's fairly small. It's very comfortable. You can put it over the skin and it bends quite nicely. And, the idea is simply that these sort of black blobs here on the top, they can just detect those signals with very high accuracy and precision and very strongly, and therefore help improving diagnostics. I mean, our goal is very simple overall. It's detecting issues faster, making healthcare more accessible, and do it in a way that is hopefully comfortable and especially safe for patients.
Oh, thank you so much. And thanks for showing us the prototype. Obviously, if people are just listening today and not watching on video, it's, how can I describe this? It's a hexagonal shaped, it's about the size of the palm of your hand. And as Ruben said, it's got about 9 or 10 of these little blobs on there, which are obviously the sensors. And then they're all joined together by conductive inks in the textile. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So that's just to give you an idea if you're just listening. Really, really cool. So you explained to me, Ruben, that traditional ECGs or electrocardiograms tests, they haven't actually changed very much in 100 years. And I've been to hospital and had surgery under anaesthetic once, and woke up and I had the little pads on my chest where obviously they've been monitoring my heart during surgery. So we're all familiar with those types of ECGs. But would you believe it? It was a Cambridge company. It was Cambridge Scientific Instrument Company who were approached by Willem Eindhoven to develop a more marketable version of what was a pretty massive device all of those years ago, sort of 100 years ago or so. And this was around 1911. And it all happened in a Cambridge building, actually. What is now the Job Centre Plus in Cambridge. I think it's called Henry Giles House. And that's right opposite the little bridge that walks you into Jesus Green. I mean, how incredible is that of course, it all happened in Cambridge. So that's the kind of machine that everybody's going to recognise today when you go to hospital. But yours sounds a lot much more convenient and comfortable. So how can you get your device into hospitals and GP surgeries? And also, I think you're going to tell us a little bit about the veterinary surgeries as well, aren't you?
That's right, absolutely. And I completely agree. It's amazing how little the ECG has changed over a century. I mean, if you look at the pictures from 1911 when they first started, all the way till now, the technology hasn't really changed that much. And, there are reasons why it hasn't changed. But we can see that there are limitations and that there are disadvantages to it, and that there are many ways in which we can improve it. I mean, in comparison, at Polytecks, what we're doing is very different, right? We're going from sticky electrodes and wires covering the whole body and being very uncomfortable, to having smart fabrics, right? With flexible and comfortable and very small electrodes, in this case, that contact the skin without being sticky or anything. And yeah, absolutely. You mentioned veterinary applications, and that's right. Our plan is to go for veterinary applications first, in particular, dogs that have valvular heart disease. I mean, pets in general, domestic animals. So cats as well, for sure. But yeah, it's very interesting because it's not a market that people would immediately think of. But it turns out to be huge because obviously, the animal market, the domestic animal market is massive. And it turns out that there is a lot of heart diseases in both cats and dogs. It is quite common. In fact, in some cases, more than in humans, right? So it's crazy. Yeah.
This might be a good chance for me to actually talk about my cat and his heart problem. In fact, shall I get him on the screen, Ruben? What do you think?
Of course, yeah. I would like to see him.
Let's go and see if he wants to come and have a chat. I will do my best to get him talk or have a little dance or whatever what you want to do. Well, I'm just grabbing him. Here he is. Let's see if we can get it. Oh. Here we are. So this is Poss, and he might not stay here for very long, but probably about 18 months ago, we took Poss to the vet for a routine check, and they discovered he had some problems with his heart. So Poss actually went to the vet school. The Queen's Vet School, isn't it, in Cambridge, the university, and Poss stayed there for a day having some heart scans and things, and they were actually collecting his data as well to use as part of a study in cardiovascular problems with cats. And as it happens, Poss is okay. He's just got a little problem with his heart, and we monitor it. He's very happy boy. So, for example, you could potentially use your product on cats, couldn't you?
Absolutely, yeah. And in fact, we are currently doing a pilot study in dogs, and eventually moving into cats at the Queen's School Hospital as well. I mean, the same place. And yeah, I mean, the idea is essentially that it's just putting the simple devices of Velcro. You don't even have to bother, the animal at all, and making the test much simpler and faster, and hopefully detect diseases earlier. That's the idea.
Awesome. So you're doing, I mean, you wouldn't call it tests on animals, because that makes you think of all sorts of nasty things that people generally don't like. But yours is actually helping animals, and it's great that that's part of the journey that you're going through with Polytecks.
Exactly, absolutely.
So what stage are you at with the business right now? Where are you with funding and investment? What do you need right now? How could any of our listeners or viewers today actually help with that? And I'm going to keep the cat here a bit longer because he's being good, isn't he?
Yeah, it's very lovely. No, absolutely. So, I mean, we are at a really exciting stage with Polytecks. It's just started. I incorporated only a couple of months ago, and the technology is really showing promising results outside the lab. As a researcher, that I've been 3 years developing this technology. The fact that we are really getting out of the lab and using this in the real world is quite exciting. And of course, because this has come from my research, it's all about building the team right now. Because I'm a sole founder so far, but I'm trying to build up the team and have the different aspects of a company covered by that team. Having an interdisciplinary team essentially. And well, of course, connecting with investors is very important at the moment. So because we need to link and connect with people that understand the potential of wearable health diagnostics and this kind of technology that we are developing. And also another important thing is trying to scale up. We need to, move from just being at the Queen's School Veterinary Hospital and trying to engage other clinics around Cambridgeshire and ideally, the whole of the UK at some point. And, actually, in terms of the research, obviously, if you're an investor and you're interested and you're listening, then definitely contact me. I would be delighted to have a chat. And if you're interested in, joining the company, then also please reach out to me. But then on the research side, I think that there is a pretty nice thing that, could help me a lot from anyone really that has pets, especially. And is that we're still running the pilot studies, of course, at the Queen's Vet School. And we are looking for healthy dogs to act as controls for our measurements. So if anyone, has a pet and, would like to contribute, then that would be amazing. You can contact me and, get that test done, basically.
Brilliant. Well, animals obviously like you, Ruben, because Poss doesn't normally sit still for very long, and I think he likes your voice, and he's looking at you on the screen. So I think animals definitely like you, which is awesome. So I mean, Polytecks I think there's some great things to come from what you're doing. It all sounds really cool, and with the veterinary market as well, which you said is huge. So really look forward to seeing what's happening over the next few months and years. I want to talk a little bit more about your journey, Ruben. So you're Spanish, and you came here to the UK, and you first studied at Imperial College London, didn't you? And then you arrived here in Cambridge, which is now home for you. Can you walk us through your education and the journey through to where you are today, really?
Yeah, of course. So I was born and raised in Seville. Oh dear, there you go. That lasted quite long, so I'm happy.
It did.
But yeah, I was born and raised in Seville, which is in the south of Spain, in the region of Andalusia. And I mean, as a kid, I was always very curious about how things worked. it's funny because I've talked to other people that, in the same context as me, and it turns out to be quite a common thing. But as a kid, I would just take gadgets apart just to see how the circuits and stuff, the mechanism worked inside it. It would drive my mother mad, but it was fun for me. But yeah, I've always wanted to invent things. So I don't know. I just that idea of coming up with new concepts, contributed in some way, making a difference to what's already been done by humanity. And both my parents are doctors, so and my family's always been very linked to medicine. So I was always fascinated by biology and and medicine and all of this. And my parents have always talked a lot about it. But I've always and I find the human body to be probably the most exciting machine to study, like the more complex machine there is. It's a very engineering way of looking at things, but I really think that it's fascinating. The problem is that when I'm thinking about becoming a doctor, I realize that I'm quite squeamish when it comes to surgery and blood and all this stuff. So I really thought, maybe it's not the stuff for me. And also, I don't know, I just get the feeling that, having a person's life in your hands, and having that responsibility is very, very tough. So, I really respect doctors in general.
Yeah.
And then, I thought, okay, well, I don't want to lose the whole biology side of things because I really love it. And at the same time, I quite like maths and physics and engineering. So I looked up for a degree that would combine the two, and I found biomedical engineering. And, biomedical engineering wasn't a very famous degree back in the day, or back at the time. In Spain, it was only available in one university.
Wow.
So I thought, maybe I should broaden up a bit the spectrum and look around in other countries. So, I looked at the UK and I saw that Imperial, it's great at, well, I had the degree to begin with, but also is great at producing doctors and producing engineers. So I thought, well, probably biomedical engineers are bound to be good, right?
Makes sense, yeah.
So I applied to Imperial. I was very lucky and, worked very hard and managed to get in. And, it was a game changer in my life overall because, moving from a relatively small town in Spain to connecting with, in the middle of London, with all cultures, with all traditions, different type of people, that it was great. I mean, obviously tough at the beginning, you need to get used to it and the, exposed to the weather, the culture and all of that. But it was, it really changed my life forever. And, building friendships, I met my wife there, I discovered that I love choir singing. So, it really made me the person I am today, really.
Yeah. So when was it that you went to Imperial? What year was that?
Yeah, that was 2017. So I got very lucky just right before Brexit.
Yeah.
So it was still under the same scheme and also the fees were lower back then.
Yes.
So, it made my life significantly easier than now, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was 2017. It's 8 years now. In fact, I became a British citizen last year. So
congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, it's a long journey. And, I finished my degree after 4 long years. And I knew I wanted to stay in research. I knew I wanted to continue stuff because during my undergrad, I did a lot of work on artificial neurons, actually. So I did a lot of research in biology, but at the same time linking it with electronics. And I knew that I wanted to continue doing that. So I applied for a PhD here in Cambridge. And I joined what is called a Center for Doctoral Training, which is sort of like a program that is funded that has a master's year and PhD. And yeah, I worked in photonics for a bit, which is quite interesting. Photonics is just electronics, but with stuff that is or signals that are so higher frequency that they become light, which is pretty cool to think about. No? But yeah, I worked a bit on that. And then I joined my current lab in bioelectronics, and that's why I developed the technology behind Polytecks and focus more on cardiovascular diseases and what I'm doing today. Right.
What an awesome journey! The choir singing as well. You told me a bit about that before. You're really into your choir singing. Can we find you on YouTube or anything like that?
Actually, yes. So my choir is called the Trinity Singers. It's not, well, it's related to Trinity College choir, but it's not it's not at the same level. I don't sing that well. And it's basically an open to the public choir. It's brilliant because, you know, my wife and I, we can both go. She's working here in Cambridge, and it's not auditions. It's very casual. It's very informal. But we get to rehearse in Trinity Chapel every week, which is pretty cool.
So cool.
And yeah, it's fantastic. I mean, we really like the
well, perhaps we'll put a link up to that YouTube channel when this goes live, so people can listen to Ruben and his wife singing away in Trinity Chapel. Awesome. So, Ruben, what an interesting story. And you came here to the UK in 2017 when you went to Imperial. If you could rewind the clock right back to when you arrived here in the UK, from lovely warm Seville to probably cold London or cloudy London, what advice would you give to the younger Ruben?
That is an excellent question. I think it's a bit late now. But if I could go back, there are two things that I can think of off the top of my head. It's funny you mentioned weather, because one is related to that. So one of the things I would say is get a raincoat. And I'll explain that because it's trickier than you think. So obviously, you know, from Spain and I think around the world, if you talk about, you know, watching a film that is based in the UK, you always see that it's rainy, it's cloudy, and it looks, you know, miserable and whatnot. So all Spaniards think, oh, okay, it's going to be rainy, so I'm going to assume that it's going to be cold, and I'm just going to get a massive winter coat, you know, huge. And that's what we all get. I mean, I know because my friends did the same from Spain. And it turns out, well, temperatures are not so bad. I mean, it's fairly mild because it's a lot of, you know, it's an island, right? So it really is milder than you think. And you don't want to be in the springtime with a massive big coat. No. You're going to be sweating and it's so uncomfortable. So I only bought a very, you know, this sort of thin raincoat that you can wear, you know, in the springtime that are quite nice. I only bought it 2 years ago and it's been a game changer for me. So I would have 100% told myself, get a raincoat because, you know, expensive first, but definitely worth it. Definitely worth it. So for any Spaniards that are thinking about coming to the UK or just arrived, that's definitely the one advice I would give.
Get a thin raincoat. I love it. Anything else?
Yeah, the other one's a bit deeper. But it's basically that coming from Spain and mainland Europe, I think it's quite general in that sense, is that university or school and high school is something that you do sort of like a work. It's something, there's a big distinction between work and, you know, your free time later on. So you sort of go to work, do your hours, then do your homework or do your studies, and then you play with your friends. And that's, you know, independent. But in Anglo-Saxon countries, and especially in the UK, I found that there's a big connection between your out of academia or studying life and your studies. So there's a lot of societies and, you know, extracurricular activities that are linked to the university. And that was a completely new thing to me. You know, there was a freshers fair, like most unis, and I didn't know what that was. And there were lots of societies and clubs. And at the beginning, I think that I thought that was something that if you wanted to do well academically, you shouldn't do that because it would take time out of studying. But I've learned, you know, I eventually caught up with that, but I realized that it's the opposite, actually. It really helps build a network and find friends and create a balance between studying and your life. So I would have told myself, you know, join societies earlier and definitely take it seriously and you know, give it a go because it really can change your life, right?
Good advice. Yeah, it's all part of the university experience, isn't it? All of those fun things as well. So wonderful. Thank you. We've had a great time talking today, Ruben. It's been really cool, and even Poss the cat got involved as well, which is a first for the podcast. But it's been absolutely brilliant. I really enjoyed it. And I'm excited, as I said, I'm really excited to see what the future holds for not only for you, but for Polytechs in the next few months and years. Fantastic. Thank you very, very much.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I mean, it's been a pleasure really to share my story with Polytechs and my journey so far. And I'm also really excited about the future and all the opportunities ahead. I mean, we mentioned a lot the veterinary work, but I really see a long-term vision in which you could use this technology for analyzing so many diseases and understanding the body so much better. So I'm really looking forward to see how it develops and what impact it will have both in healthcare and beyond, right? So thank you so much. Thank you very much.
Cool stuff. Was it? Well, as Ruben said at the start of the podcast, this is his very first one. So you've seen it, you've heard it here first on the Project Cambridge podcast. Well, that's all from us today. Hope you've enjoyed it. Don't forget to subscribe to us on YouTube and Apple Podcasts. We're on there as well. And even better, if you want to leave us a review, we'd absolutely love that as well. And as I said at the start of the podcast, if you've got any questions or comments, pop them in the comments boxes, and we'll filter through those later and send any through to Ruben that's relevant, anybody that wants to have a chat with him or anything like that. So thank you very much again for listening to the Project Cambridge podcast. We'll see you all again soon.
This has been the Project Cambridge podcast.